They were the first. The Ilari, born from the chaos of collapsing stars, their civilization had existed long before Earth cooled into green and blue. They mapped the spin of galaxies, bent gravity into architecture, and archived time itself. They were not cruel, but they were alone. In all their eons of travel, the Ilari found only echoes, civilizations that bloomed, flickered, and died before they could even arrive. Or worse, silence. Planets stillborn, species self-devoured. And so, the Ilari learned not to hope. They moved in vast generational ships, observing without touching, logging without interfering. Detached. Until the last system on their chart pulsed with something unexpected. A signal. Human music. Not just rhythm. Emotion. Longing in the minor chords. Defiance in brass. Joy in simple melodies whistled from orbit. Intrigued, the Ilari watched from behind their cloaking veils. Humans were primitive by comparison. Short-lived, reckless, constantly colliding with themselves. But they laughed. And wept. And loved. They did not archive life. They lived it. The Ilari debated, as they always did. Should they contact this volatile species? It was a young scholar, Yeltrin, who made the first breach. Disguised in neutral form, she landed in a human city. Tokyo. The cacophony overwhelmed her senses, colors too bright, feelings too raw. She was scanning the crowd, feeding data into her node, when a child tripped near her feet. A small girl. Crying. Bleeding at the knee. Yeltrin froze. Her people had studied injury. They understood biology. But comfort was not in their database. The child looked up. Eyes wet. Reaching. And without thinking, Yeltrin knelt and held her. The warmth was foreign. The heartbeat against hers, fast and trusting, short-circuited every protocol in her mind. "Are you my angel?" the child asked, in trembling English. Yeltrin didn't understand the words, but she felt their weight. She stayed by the child until help came. The parents bowed in thanks. The child hugged her once more before leaving. When Yeltrin returned to the ship, she didn't speak for 3 days. Then she submitted a single report. They bleed, yes, but they also reach. Even in pain, they reach for love. The council was divided, but curiosity long dulled stirred. The Ilari sent more scholars. Quietly, carefully. Some went to observe human hospitals where strangers held hands before death. Others embedded in refugee camps, watching humans share food they couldn't spare. One Ilari, Farron, tried to understand love through logic. He joined a human university, took courses in philosophy and art, argued with poets in smoky cafes. None of it made sense. Until one rainy afternoon, a blind professor asked Farron if he believed in beauty. "I can measure symmetry," Farron replied. "That's not what I asked." Farron asked back, "Why do you still teach? Your body weakens. Your eyes do not function." The professor smiled. "Because every student that walks through that door is a world waiting to bloom. And because I was loved once. It stays with me." Farron recorded that sentence. Played it every night. The Ilari couldn't agree on what love was. But they knew what it did. It softened. It stitched wounds without thread. It drew creatures toward each other, even across pain, fear, and the chasms of difference. And so they revealed themselves. A global broadcast. Calm, precise, and unarmed. "We are the Ilari. We come not to lead, nor to take. We seek to understand what you carry in your hearts." Humanity, predictably, responded with chaos, wonder, and conspiracy theories. But no weapons fired. Instead, ambassadors were sent. Not generals. Not scientists. Artists. Teachers. Midwives. People who knew how to love. The Ilari began to change. Their architecture shifted, from harsh crystalline towers to shapes curved in gentle imitation of human laughter. They began to sing, awkwardly at first, their harmonies rigid mathematical, until one human choir director visited their ship and said, "Stop counting. Feel." The Ilari stumbled, fumbled, then harmonized. For the first time in a billion years, the Ilari created not to archive but to share. They still could not reproduce emotion biologically, but they built a concept into their memory cores, a living library of human stories, gestures, warmth. They called it the Archive of First Love. When asked why, they answered, "Because though we were born first, they taught us how to live." On the anniversary of their contact, humans and Ilari gathered together, not to sign treaties, not to exchange resources, but to hold hands, to paint, to tell stories of their ancestors, how the Ilari wrote in the silence of stars, and humans arrived like a spark in a vacuum. Sometimes the youngest ask, "Were we really the last?" And the elders always reply with a smile, "Yes, but you were the first to love us."